Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com. We're a full service CX and UX agency, and it is that time again. It is time for office hours Ask Me Anything, except today we do have a special guest who will be coming soon. But don't forget, if you've got a question to ask, I am monitoring the LinkedIn chat room, the YouTube chat room. We're not broadcasting on Twitch anymore, and I will also be checking my email for anything sent to deltacx.link/ask, which is our anonymous way of sending in a question, like if you want to complain about something happening in your life or at your job. So without further yappings, other than please remember to subscribe, let me bring in our special guest, internationally famous Canadian radio host, because that's another country, Russell Bowers. Russell, spell your name and tell everybody why we should like you.
Well, it's spelled Russell. That's the first name, Russell, and the last name Bowers, Bowers. And I work for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC, which if you're overseas or in other places, it's equivalent to, for example, National Public Radio in America, the BBC in England, Radio Sweden in Sweden, of course, things like that. So we're a public broadcaster. I've been in the business now for 33 years, give or take. I think they've totaled up, I've done about 15,000 interviews during the course of that time. But I've had the pleasure of doing a whole bunch of different things in this industry. So I've obviously done radio programs, which I do every Saturday and Sunday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. Mountain Time, or I guess it's Central Time in the States, but Mountain
Just
Time
look
generally.
Up Calgary time. Ask
yeah,
Google.
Exactly. Yeah. And so basically I do a weekend show of a bit of music, a bit of culture programming, small C culture. And I've been doing this now, as I said, for 3 decades. And one of the things that I've learned a lot about is how to ask questions. And if there's anyone who happens to have a question for me that is related to something that you're doing, or if you have any media questions, or sort of how to ask questions, I'm happy to take those questions today if you have them. Otherwise, I'm just here to help out Debbie and do a bit of comedic relief because, as Debbie also knows, I've also had a bit of a career as... Yeah, I've done some comedy. I've been involved in a couple of comedy troupes. So Debbie and I have known each other getting on 10 years now, I guess,
12?
give or take.
I think I met you 2009.
And, it's in that neighborhood, yeah. And we bonded over things like Eddie Izzard and Kids in the Hall. And over the years, we've traversed through Las Vegas a couple of times, up and down Silicon Valley. So we've had some great times ourselves, just getting to know each other. And of course, even though she's lived in so many different places over the years, I've moved around a bit too, but only within Canada. So if there's any questions, like I said, that come to mind,
what's the terms of your parole?
Feel free.
No.
Yes, exactly. But otherwise, I'm just here to have a little fun with Debbie and hopefully have some fun with the folks who are looking in on the call today.
Yes, thank you so much. And so the way we're going to do today is a little bit different than usual. I have been receiving your questions and I'll put them on the usual list in the usual order. And what will happen is after I read the question, Russell will get 15 seconds to improvise an answer knowing pretty much nothing about UX. In fact, Russell, what does UX stand for?
Ultra extra good stuff that people like to look at their phones upon.
That's good. We have, I don't know if you can see. Can you see what's coming up on the screen?
Cake or death. Well, it's always cake, I think.
Right.
I think I have that T-shirt still from the show we saw in Oakland.
Oh my God, the old days. Check us out. We're so old. Kayleen, I see your question other than cake or death, and I'm going to put it on the list at the bottom of the list. Why can't I copy and paste questions today? As everybody knows, I copy and paste all of your questions into a lovely notepad file, and then I make them the YouTube description so you can find out later what the heck we talked about. So, and funny enough for Russell, we got 2 questions today that are each about a page long. So here we go. But luckily, first question is an easy one. So I'm going to get the countdown clock ready. Russell, what would be the very first thing to start a UX project?
I would say the very first thing to start a US project is a moment of time to just meditate on what you're going to do for the better part of that day. Now, I would say you meditate on something like a soft cushion. Those things are usually the best for meditation. Now, if you don't have a soft cushion, try something like a chair you've pulled out of an old car.
These are good ideas. Hi, Charlene. Okay, so the first thing to start a project would be watch yesterday's show, which is now in the Micro Lessons playlist, and it was planning a research project. So very often the first thing I do, first you have to plan the project. So when you say the first thing to start a project, my question is, did you plan it? Or are you just jumping in and you have no plan and you're going to just cross your fingers? I see that a lot, so I'm not going to take for granted that you planned. So the first thing related to a project is a project plan. Now, because you asked the question anonymously, and I don't know if you're watching live, I cannot ask you a follow-up question and say, did you plan your project? If not, watch yesterday's stream, Micro Lessons, Observational Research Planning. Hello, Shannon. We've got everybody. So by the way, Russell, I forgot to tell you, you can't see the chat room. You wouldn't want to. It's a flood of lovely, lovely people. But it's a flood. Right now, 11 people flooding the place.
Hello, flood.
Yes. So the very first thing I would do to start a project would be planning it. If you've already done that, then the very first thing you're doing to do the project is, it really depends. Sometimes it's research. It could be an existing audit of the product. It could be research with humans, sometimes internal stakeholders first to bug them. I don't know. I can't say there's always one right way. You'd have to tell me more about your project, and I'll do my best. Russell, the next question is so long, I'm going to see if I can share my screen. I don't know if it'll be big enough on your screen to see it. Let me try this. Okay. It's going to turn off your microphone, so just give me a second and I'll turn you back on in a moment while I read this question. Okay, so here's me, here's my vMix setup, here's everybody in the chat room, and here's the question. I'm a UX designer at an IC level within a product team. Our POs love to cut corners because that means being lean and agile. I've noticed that they often want to bring us in when the plan is already in motion. Regardless of how often we push for proper discovery or even proper triad working conditions, nothing seems to change. I think, Russell, your mic might still be on, so just checking. I'm the newest member of the team and I already feel burnt out from pushing back. My 2 other UX coworkers have complained and brought this up to management, but they've never seen any resolutions and often dismiss it as, it's a communication problem, y'all need to talk it out. Nothing's changed, and I'm honestly tired of the pushing back. It often feels like, great, now you all get to see my spam mail. It often feels like I'm swimming against the current when we try to do proper UX work. How normal is this? Is this what I'll have to deal with the rest of my UX career? I'm already cleaning up my resume and ready to head out to a company that values proper triad and discovery work instead of this reactive environment. It's not my first job, and I miss my old team. Apologies for the vent, but I need a gut check. Thanks, Debbie. You always keep it real. And here's Russell Bowers, who always keeps it even realer. Russell, 15 seconds on the clock, though obviously you can run over. What can we say to help that person?
I'm a bit out of my depth here because I've neither been lean or agile. However, we do have an old saying, a bit of an old joke in the public broadcasting field, and that is, there's only one thing wrong with public broadcasting, and that is the public. So if you're dealing with people, it's going to come up a lot in the course of a career, no matter where you are or what you're doing.
Thank you. I hope, can everyone hear the applause? I downloaded some applause. I downloaded the sound of 8 people clapping. I thought that would be just about right for us.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, so looking back on the question, obviously there's a lot here and I don't want to give a really long answer. Wilson says, I just got here. What did I miss? Wilson, it's office hours. Ask me anything. And my friend Russell is giving comedy answers to questions. That's what you missed. So first of all, Yes, what you're describing is really messed up. It's why I tour a lot of conferences that are engineering, lean, and agile conferences to explain to people why this is not how this goes. I've written a book about it. I'm doing what I can to fight this. So number one, you can always go to the micro lessons playlist on my YouTube channel and scroll down and find Dev and UX. It's a 46-minute conference session that I do that tries to, it's aimed at everybody but you. Person who wrote in. This is for your coworkers. Watch it. If you like it, show it to them. Then they can blame me. Are all UX jobs like this? Many of them, unfortunately, are. I wish I had better news for you. They really are a mess right now. It's another reason why in a few weeks I'll be coming out with my HR training program so people can stop making us such freaking garbage jobs. Yes, clean up your resume, and yes, go somewhere else. But remember, I'm going to give you some homework. Next time you're being interviewed for a job, ask better questions. You're not the only one being interviewed. They're assessing you, you assess them, and you need to ask questions like, how is research done in this organization? Are we making decisions based on that research? Does engineering wait until UX has a finalized and tested design? Sorry, that's Olivia the dog who agrees. Is Olivia. These are the types of questions to ask. So that's my thought. Russell, anything people should ask during job
I would
interviews?
say, yeah, there's three things. First of all, yeah, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, because if it's not a good fit, it's too late to learn that after you've already accepted the job. One thing I would stress, if you're already inside a place and you don't necessarily want to leave and go through the trouble of finding another job, is start to ask questions to develop your own communication skills. I find that any question that doesn't begin with the words what, why, or how is probably a bad question, and you're just testing a hypothesis. For example, I could say to Debbie, do you like the color fuchsia? Now, there's only two possible answers to that question, yes or no. And then you're reliant on, but it's sort of like one of those things where if I'm reliant on Debbie to give me more information. Whereas if I just said to Debbie, what's your favorite color? Well, now the universe is the answer. A lot of times people will tell you more about themselves than they will about the subject at hand. So if you can develop those questions, as Debbie was mentioning about, like, so what is the process here? Or why are we doing it this way? If you can get more information from them, you'll actually learn more about your fellow employees. So that's what I would suggest, is to try and just ask more questions.
Super, super, and thank you. And that was also semi-serious. Okay, looking back at our list of questions, the next one that has come in is, in my company, I have students to work under me, but I don't know how to manage them. Do you have any advice?
Well, I would say that if you don't know how to manage people, then let them run rampant, because they'll find their own level. It's like water. Employees are like water. They'll just find their own level. So you just let them run forth with absolutely no direction. It'll work out every time.
All right, thank you. Let's see, we've got questions also coming in the chat room. I see you, I'm adding you to the bottom of the list. We will go pretty much on time today because I have a call after this. But my answer is, how do you manage students? I'm a play to my audience type of manager, so I think you have to learn what they need, because while you have students, they might have different needs. Some of them might be stronger than others, some of them might be more confident than others, and I think you just have to get to know them individually, learn more about what they need, and see how you can deliver that. Really, it's very much like our own jobs. You want happy students. So you have to learn what you can do to support them. So I would say ask questions. I know that's going to end up the theme here, but ask questions and learn what they need from you, and look at how you can deliver that in a way that makes most sense to them. Moving on, because we always have 9 million questions during these shows. Oh, okay. What do you think about the jobs to be done approach, JTBD? How is that different than task analysis? Oh, over to Russell for that one.
I think it comes down to who your executive actually is, because we have a saying as well in the public broadcasting business was, how many executives does it take to screw in a light bulb? Does it have to be a light bulb?
So deep. So deep. The audience loves you. That's great. Okay, so I know a few things about task analysis. I know fewer things about jobs to be done. So I dragged my ass over to the jobs to be done page on NN Group. You can too. Just Google it. And basically, while the article is not specifically about jobs to be done versus task analysis, basically the point that I see that NNG is making is that task analysis is very focused on the steps the user is taking and some of the color of that. Remember, it's tools, workarounds, knowledge, obstacles, and issues. That seems really important when our job next is to simplify and optimize that task so that people have a simpler process. From what the NNG page says, and again, I'm no expert on jobs to be done, it looks like jobs to be done is you start by saying what is the end goal someone's trying to achieve. So the example NNG gives is travel to another city for a conference. Okay, that's the end goal, but if you remember Larry Marine's task analysis lesson, also in the micro lessons playlist, you'll remember that he really went step by step, granularly through people's steps and added that other information about tools, knowledge, workarounds, obstacles, and issues. I'm not seeing that so much here in jobs to be done. It looks like you can list emotional criteria. That gets this. Emotional criteria, personal, emotional criteria, social, and functional criteria, objective. So I'm already a bit lost. So I would say that while I've heard some good things about jobs to be done, I would say, and that I've also heard that it is a derivative of task analysis, I would say let's go with the oldie goldie task analysis. So there you go. That is my answer, and y'all can disagree. All right, here is the next question. Disagreement, no extra charge. And I am trying to check if any more questions are coming in through email because I always miss them, but I've got everybody on the list. Next is how to give the reasoning behind your decisions to the non-designers who asked you if you also considered the X solution. So it sounds like this person's teammates who don't work in UX are saying, yeah, but did you think about this idea? What do we say to those people to explain our decisions?
First of all, the thing you have to figure out right away is that those people don't matter and they're just in your way. They're probably like a study group, at a survey, a research firm, You feed enough people sandwiches, they will come up with the strangest solutions and problems. So I would say just ignore them.
Take away the sandwiches sounds like the answer here. No sandwiches for you. Okay, so how do you give the reasoning behind your decisions to other people if you considered X solution? So sometimes when I show something that I've worked on and people say, well, yeah, did you consider this idea? I normally say, and I don't have the right words right now. I would spend a little more time finding the right words, but normally I say, what about that will connect well with our target audience? So I don't make it about, well, I think mine's good. I think yours is bad. You take away the personal and emotional and opinion aspects of it, and we refocus on the users and customers. Well, your idea, you've got an idea. What about that connects well with our users and customers? Or if you've done a task analysis, how does your idea match the task the customer is trying to achieve? And sometimes people go, oh yeah, oh. And sometimes they have a good answer and we should listen to them and we maybe should change our design. So remember, we're not the only ones with good ideas. It can feel belittling when another teammate says, Hey, did you think about this idea? And so another thing that I'll sometimes do is I'll document ideas I considered but didn't choose and why I didn't choose them, so that there is lovely corporate documentation on why I didn't pursue a certain idea. So hopefully those are 2 suggestions that you can give a try. Russell has more.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in. There's an excellent point that Debbie's raising, in that you're putting some degree of empowerment with the person asking the question. Think of it this way. It's kind of the difference between, did you take the garbage out yet? Versus, what's happening with the garbage removal? You're putting in some degree of empowerment, whereas the first question sounds kind of accusatory. So whenever you can, it's like anything else. Like if someone brings up, did you think about pie? Well, what do you think will happen if we think about pie? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's great. You can never ask too many questions in our universe, but what I try to do is make sure the other person is user and customer focused, and just ask how their idea works better for our target users and their tasks. And if they go, well, I like this one better, then you say, I'm sorry, that's you have to find a better way to say it than I'm thinking now, but you have to find a better way to say, that's not a good enough reason. We don't pick these things based on American Idol voting, and that's not how we do this. We are into science and technique. Wow. I need more sounds when supercomputer comes. Wilson says Russell gave a legit answer. So yeah, he's this. He may not look
a few
it,
of them
but
creep
he's
out
smart.
from time to time.
Yeah. Don't be fooled. But Steve Austin fell over. Yes. Yeah. He's got a Steve Austin action figure for those of you who are our age. Okay, Russell, the next question is also 10 miles long, so I'm going to take you off the screen, share my screen again, risk that I get spam email, and share it with everybody so they can read along for you at home as well. Hey Debbie, I have a question about expressing design confidence without lying about work experience. I have little experience in research and testing after 3 years of working as a UX designer. UX firefighter would probably be more appropriate for that job, and it's why I failed to land a new job time and time again. My personal portfolio, including work and my own projects with my own research, is received well. I get interviews, recruiters are hitting me up, and I always pass the hiring managers. But in the end, I fail the team interview when it comes to my experience with research and testing. I think it's a confidence thing. At the end of last year, I already took some refreshment classes for UX research and finally got UX certified from UXQB to brush up my skills. But every company that wants to hire still wants mid-level designers with strong research and testing skills. And if I'm honest, I'm not confident. I'm a fast learner, and I'm sure I can find a place in my team. But even if I get a new job, I barely have experience in UX research and testing, and it will show in a professional setting. I don't want to lie about this. How can I communicate that I'm not strong or experienced in doing research and testing without disqualifying myself as a potential hire? You should get more than 15 seconds, Russell, but go.
Well, first of all, the first rule of confidence is to fake it till you make it. But in absence of that, I would say just lean back in the chair, put your feet up on the desk, and say, your problem is you haven't hired me yet. Ooh. So if you're wondering if I'll be good at this job, hire me and you'll find out.
That is compelling. That's gone beyond confidence.
That's one word for it.
It's gone beyond confidence to arrogance. Ouch. Okay, so there's a couple of things in this one that I need to unpack. So first of all, I'm sorry, but I find UXQB's certificate to be garbage. I actually blasted it in 10,000 tiny pieces on episode 79. If you go back into the live stream podcasts playlist, look for, I think it's 79, and it's called What's the Value of UX Education? So you can take UXQB till the cows come home and some of these other certificates, but unfortunately there are multiple choice tests about concepts. You're being asked to show that you can do research and testing, which is very different from can you remember ISO 9241 standards on usability. I'm going to have to get that sound after I get my supercomputer. So Wilson's going, yep. So I would suggest, and this is going to cost you some money, so I apologize that I'm draining your bank account on this one, but I would probably suggest Michelle Ronson's Curiosity Tank courses. Hashtag not sponsored. I do not get paid to say that. In fact, she will give you $50 off if you tell her I sent you. I said, give whatever money you were going to give to me to the good people. So Michelle Ronson's Curiosity Tank courses do run over $2,000 American, but you will really learn research from a real research expert out there in California, and she will take you through a project and coach you, and you'll be able to put something on your portfolio. It won't be a mountain of corporate experience, but it's a place to start, because if nothing else, it will boost your confidence, and you will be able to speak to planning research, recruiting, conducting research, analyzing that research, and some things like that. That's where her courses focus. My boyfriend, as many people know, he sat in on the courses. He did the observing, so he didn't do the work. We went the cheap version and we watched it happen. I suggest you spend the extra money and do it. But I've heard very good things about Michelle's courses from lots of people. She's been a guest on the show multiple times, and she'll actually be back in about a month doing a show on how to transition into research. So I would say take her course. It's a much better choice than stinky UXQB, who I burned to the ground and was just thinking about the other day. What else can I tell you? Confidence also comes with time. Russell, do you have something helpful about confidence?
Well, can I ask this? Forgive my ignorance on this, obviously, but as part of the question, he said he always fails the team interview.
Yes, he or she, we don't know the gender of the person asking, but it sounds like once they are being asked to maybe do an interview with other people in their team who might be their coworkers, which is very common in UX. Like you meet the HR person who makes sure you're not crazy. Then you meet your hiring manager. Then you meet some of your potential teammates, and they have the right to ask you about granular topics like, how would you plan this kind of research? And it sounds like this person's getting stuck there.
So I would just add something rather general, which is a good rule of thumb for whatever industry you're in. But at the point where you get to a team interview, or what I sometimes call a board interview, if a question comes, in this instance, for example, from Debbie, and Debbie has asked me a question, I'm going to maintain eye contact with Debbie for the better part of my answer. But I'm also going to address the other people in the room, and I'm going to turn to them and let them know that I'm also thinking about them and delivering part of my answer to them. And I will gain confidence as I start to see their other responses before returning to Debbie to finish what it is I'm going to say. So as a general rule of thumb, if you're in any of these kinds of interviews, don't look away, don't look at your pants or whatever it is. Try and maintain that eye contact with people, because as you start to go on and on with your answer, it will develop your own confidence in the interview process.
I don't know why people are amazed that you can actually give a legitimate answer. This is friend of the show, Maggie, and
Hi, Maggie.
Yeah, I've known Russell like 12 years now. I promise he can give legitimate answers, but he's also very funny. And we've sometimes secretly written comedy for each other. So there you go. I would say to the person, it's good to be honest. And I would also say watch what jobs you're applying for. If you are applying for heavy research jobs when you don't have research experience, they're going to catch you at some point and go, we need someone who's done this. You might need to keep applying for those more architecture design jobs, but get the experience from Michelle and from some other studying and practicing so that eventually you will get there. Good luck. Good luck, mysterious anonymous friend of the show. Let me check if I'm missing any questions coming in. Yes, we have another question coming in. I promise I will add you to the bottom of the list because the list is long. Okay, hold on. New question, adding to the bottom of the list. Did I miss anything in the... No, Maggie says, I thought we're doing non-legitimate answers, but I'm not saying he can't give a legitimate answer. Maggie's typecasting.
I've tried to do both.
Yeah, exactly.
I've tried to do both.
Don't worry, you'll get your $10. No, I'm kidding. Okay. Okay, this was a question from the chat room from Kayleen. I'm finally up to Kayleen's question from the chat. And she said, on my Calendly, Russell, are you hip to the Calendly?
It sounds like a calendar app.
Yes. Okay, moving on. On my Calendly, I have a required checkbox that basically says, I agree that I'm 18 plus, this study is voluntary, I relinquish my rights to the recording of the call. I hope this is sufficient in lieu of a consent form. So I think the question there is a calendar appointment checkbox sufficient in lieu of a legal consent form when interviewing people? Russell.
I think when you address issues of legality, I think you should take a laissez-faire approach and not worry, because it's probably going to work out. Legal things tend to never go anywhere. So if you're worried about the legality of something, just tick all the boxes. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's a good one. So my answer for that would be while you could get away legally with something like, checkbox, I agree to all of the terms of this study, and then you have a link to some page somewhere that has all of your terms and conditions, you could legally get away with that. It is generally considered better to have a separate consent form that you ask people to please read and review, ask questions if they have them, and sign or online digital sign, to make sure that they understood the terms of the interview. You don't want anybody surprised later. Now, in general, we're not doing anything wacky with these interviews, so I know that checkbox is probably good enough for the practice interviews that Kayleen is working on right now. But I would say in a real job, we're going to expect you to have and use a real consent form. You don't have to write it yourself. This normally comes from lawyers or from samples we download off the web, but then have your lawyer check it. So I would say it might be good enough for some of the practice interviews some of you are doing, but when you work at a real job, we expect there to be a proper consent form. So I hope that helps. Dandrew, I see your question. I'm going to add it to the bottom. Thank you, Dandrew, on LinkedIn. How's the lag, by the way, Dandrew? Can you tell how long our lag is? All right, next question. Ooh, there's a lot of acronyms here. I'm gonna have to help you out here, Russell. A BA is a business analyst and a PM is a product manager. These are normally people we work with who we have lots of conflict with. Okay, so that's the backstory. Here's the question. What are the key questions that you ask stakeholders, BAs, and PMs when gathering requirements on a new project? It's new project day here.
I think a key question I'd ask a stakeholder is, do you want it well done? Do you like it rare? Shall I cook it with onions and mushrooms, that kind of thing? So I would stick to those kinds of preparations and those kinds of questions, because I think anything else is just confusing the matter.
The applause is so perfect. I'm going to do something I always suggest people not do and quote myself. In my book, I said, we can't burn stakeholders at the stake. That's not why they're called stakeholders. So Maggie loved your joke, Russell. You win. Okay, so what do we ask stakeholders, BAs, and PMs when gathering requirements on a new project? I would say thing one, you're already too late. Why weren't you involved in planning that project? And why were the requirements written without you? I'll put up the lightning for that one. So look out. So I would also say, even though you're stuck right now trying to get this stuff from BAs and PMs, work with them, work with your manager on being part of the requirements process earlier. It's going to help you not have so many surprises later. Shannon says, ugh, why not? Fire. So what would I ask stakeholders? So stakeholders, I'm usually asking what their success criteria is and what their KPIs are. What are we measuring and how are we measuring it so that we know if this project is a success or a failure? And very often they need help there, or they have stupid bad ideas of what to measure and you have to be like, that doesn't matter. No, we don't measure time on site anymore. Unless it's a content site with ads. BAs and PMs. So the key questions I ask is, are you fucking serious? Yeah, I can't tell you what I always ask. It really depends on what the requirements document they handed me looks like. If the requirements are quite fair, maybe I'm off and running. But if the requirements are BS, I would certainly want to talk to them about being more involved in helping to develop the requirements the first time around. Kayleen has put up an emoji of a steak. Oh, Charlene donated to the channel. Thank you so much. Charlene donated a British pound. Thank you. Let's put that up. Hold on. I need a way to put that up. Is it in my system? It's not coming up right now. How does it not here? It's in one system, but not the other. Anyway, thank you, Charlene, for the donation to the channel. I shall eat more delicious cheese. So again, whenever people ask me, like, what do you do? Or how do you start a project? Or what questions do you ask people? I don't have a good answer there because I really need to know more about your project because I don't always do the same thing the same way. I'm a musician and I play to my audience. Let's check what else is coming in. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Who's this? Nope, that's something else. All right, so next question is... What are your thoughts on Moocs? Are they worth taking for foundational information? Moocs, massive online courses.
Well, I think that when it comes to massive online courses, that it's the sort of thing where you have to ask yourself, how massive are they? Will there be many courses? And, do you really trust something called a Mooc?
Mooc undoes itself a little bit, doesn't it? Yeah. So this is the same type of question as the last one. I cannot say all Moocs are good, all Moocs are bad. To me, many online courses are terrible. If you send me the online course, I will add it to my list for the new set of Debbie Reacts videos that are starting on April 2nd. But I cannot speak, unless you want to post one here, I cannot tell you exactly what I think of one until you send it over and I take a look at what the course is going to teach you and who. Hey, YouTubers, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of when we're going live. And we do now have paid subscriptions. If you hit the join button for as little as $3 American a month, you can help support the channel and help me buy delicious cheese. And you also get fun emoji. And at the higher level, the $6 a month, I'm going to do a special stream just for you, which is so far one person. So you are going to get a really customized live stream. It's probably going to be personal coaching at that level. Maggie. Oh, Maggie's got the secret of comedy, Russell. Look at this. Hold on. I've put too many things on the screen. Hold on. I've overdone it. Help. I've overlaid my overlays. Maggie says Mook is close to moo, and moo is a cow, and cow is steak. So how do you like your steak?
Maggie, you've read my mind because I was going to go in that direction. I'll be honest with you, but I thought I don't want to repeat myself. And then I thought, well, I definitely don't want to repeat myself. But the other thing, if I could just be serious for a moment is, and just for a moment, because, put a timer on this. You do have to consider the source. If a Mooc is from Harvard, that's got a little more credibility to it versus a Mooc from Doug's University and Lawnmower Repair. So try and consider who's offering you the Mooc.
That's true too. The source is important as well. And I always say, look at who the instructor is, research them on LinkedIn. And if they haven't worked in UX for many years, keep walking. No reason to learn from somebody who hasn't been doing what we've been doing in the trenches for many years. Or as I've heard it spelled, womp womp. Let's see. You can actually spell trombones now. Okay. Another question we got is home office better than working in an office? Russell.
I've had the experience of this just recently. And the thing is that no matter where you are, you're there.
You're stuck
And
with
it doesn't
yourself.
matter which no matter which four walls are around you, the thing they have in common is you. So try and avoid work as little as possible. That's my advice. It's better, and if you have, like, it used to be like if you were at your desk, if your boss walked by, you had to look busy. Recreate the situation every time a child or your wife walks by or your husband walks by,
or both.
Just look busy, and then once they're gone, you can go back to playing solitaire.
Russell, have you been broadcasting from home, or do you still go into the studio?
I still have to go into the studio, one for two reasons. By the time they got around to me, they ran out of equipment, so that shows me where I am on the totem pole. But it also, there was an instance where I had to quarantine at home for a couple of weeks because of an exposure. Now, I tested negative, thankfully.
Yay.
But they did give me some gear to try and broadcast from the house, but the little mixer that they gave me had, I think, a little wiring problem, so there was this buzz going through everything I was doing. So in the end, we sort of figured out a way to make it work. But yeah, I've been having to go into the studio and record my interviews and host the show. So the biggest thing I find with a lot of, and perhaps other people who listen to broadcasters around the world, in that, there's so little thought given to the sound that people are generating from their home offices or from their little cubby holes and so forth. Yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping that this sounds okay today. I can't hear myself, but I can hear Debbie. But it is a consideration because it's a big factor when you're listening to things like YouTube or podcasts and so forth. If it sounds like people are broadcasting from their bathroom, it's really, really distracting. But I'll let Debbie carry on with the answer. But yeah, there is a big difference between home and office, in that the home requires, I think, a lot more self-discipline and a lot more care than perhaps you'd get if you were in the office, and the context of your coworkers keeps you disciplined.
Yeah, and I would say your SM58 sounds great, but I'd probably put a gate on it or a compressor, because sometimes I hear you heavy breathing.
Okay, thank you. Could be the
or
game
you just
too,
don't want to
so
go
I'll
like
adjust that a little bit. Well, it's been a quiet week in Lake Wobegon, my hometown.
Russell, what is the temperature in Red Deer?
Good question. No, it's Medicine Hat. That's what you like, right? Is it Medicine Hat that you're a big fan of?
Medicine Hat.
These are. I have a little app on my phone, if you can see that, and that basically
so that you can say it live on the air.
Yeah, and right now in Red Deer, it's 2 degrees Celsius, and in lovely downtown Medicine Hat, it is cloudy and 2 degrees Celsius. Medicine Hat they were going to change the name of Medicine Hat. This is a backstory for Debbie, but they were going to change the name of Medicine Hat to something else. They hated the name Medicine Hat in Medicine Hat. So they were trying to think of something like Pittsburgh. They wanted to be like the Pittsburgh of the North. And no less a person than Rudyard Kipling stepped in and lobbied for the city of Medicine Hat to keep its name. And it's there's a whole backstory behind it. If you ever get a chance to look it up, it's somewhat interesting.
And we should mention quickly that since Russell's in Canada, his phone is in metric units and Celsius. So that was not 2 Fahrenheit, Shannon. That was 2 Celsius. So that's going to be about 35 Fahrenheit. Moving on to the questions. Whoop, 36. Okay, I was close.
There you go.
Thank you. And Russell, who reads the news now on your station? Who do you throw it to?
Tim Devlin.
Oh.
Thank you, Tim. Tim Devlin in our CBC Alberta newsroom with our headlines this morning. It's 7:37. It's time now for music from the Sparks.
No,
hey,
you don't play
the
Sparks.
Edgar Wright?
I haven't seen it yet.
I have played them once. Yeah, the Edgar Wright documentary about the Sparks.
Good things about it.
If you get a chance.
Yeah. All right, sorry, we should answer more questions. Hi, everybody. This is Office Hours Ask Me Anything, and we've got special guest, brilliant Canadian journalist and radio broadcaster Russell Bowers here. You can catch him on the CBC website at Daybreak Alberta, and it is broadcast live on the interwebs, so you can give it a listen. And I think they use the Real Player. Sorry, I had
I
to
don't
go
think
there.
we use Real Player. Sorry. We have an app and everything now. We're getting so much better. Although, from what Debbie understands, we got a lot to learn about UX.
Oh, that one was too good. You're going to use that. Okay,
On air
Flavio.
and on Real Player.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. On Winamp. Okay, so I'm crying, everybody. Okay, a question is, how do the design team manage clients who wish to pay less or they can't afford the research process? Ooh, just went through this one. Okay, how do you manage people who want to pay less or can't afford research?
Well, those people clearly should get what they paid for. That's the only thing that you can do with people who like to do things on the cheap, in that, offer them some free advice. Throw in a little free advice. Then they'll feel like they're really getting something of value.
That's great, thank you. I'm gonna try putting a gate on you for the breathing, but
Okay.
anyway.
I'll step back from the microphone too.
Yeah, sorry about that. I put a gate on you for like negative 65 dB. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so that's pretty common where clients don't want to pay for research. And isn't it amazing that they can afford the rest of the project, but somehow not the research? So there's something always a little bit strange about that. And I do run into these people from time to time. And if this is a client and you're a freelancer or you're an agency, obviously when you work at the company, it's hard to be like, no, we're doing research. But when you're being brought in as a freelancer or an agency, the assumption and expectation are that you're the expert. So to me, as soon as you go, oh, you don't want research? Fine, we don't have to do research. I'll guess at the next thing. You have now become an order taker. Remember the fried egg from episode, 103? You are now a fried egg. You are an order taker. And you've basically taught them that your expertise doesn't matter because as soon as they ask for something, you go, yup, whatever you say. I turned down a client the other day because I gave them a proposal for research and then information architecture and things like that. And I got into a call with them and they said, we don't need the research, or maybe we'll do some later. And I said, no, the IA is informed by the research. And they said, no, the IA is the foundation, so we need that first. And I said, the research tells me what to do with your IA, so the research is the foundation. And then I refused to work with them. That doesn't make me a hero. It just makes me someone who's going to be happier with the clients I have and the work that I do. So how do you manage people who don't want to pay and can't afford the research? If you can push back on them, push back. And if it's a project you can say no to, say no. Russell.
Well, that's a true point, because ultimately they will cost you money because you'll spend time and effort trying to get that business. If they haven't done their own research to find out what your services reasonably cost and are trying to do everything on the cheap, they're just going to end up costing you time and money, perhaps time and money you don't have, when you should be out there finding that client that can afford your work experience and your expertise.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. And another thing that I was going to say, oh yeah, another thing I said to the people I turned down last week was that I've noticed in 1,000,000 years of doing this work that whenever I have agreed to that in the distant past and said, okay, I'll try doing your IA and then we'll research and test it and fix it because I can't get everything right, that they were resentful of me that when we did the research or testing, some of my ideas were proven wrong. Now in UX, we love when we're proven wrong because we get to make something better and improve our ideas. But I've had people 100% of the time that were resentful that I didn't guess better the first time. And aren't you an expert? And what am I paying you for? And they just expect you to be a mind-reading genius. So I just find that those people, as Russell says, they will drain you and they won't appreciate you. They will assume that you're going to guess perfectly. And if you do any research or testing that shows you didn't guess perfectly, I've just found that they're resentful. So Shannon says, I've had that experience too. Didn't want to give me access to analytics. Okay, what other data can you give me? Just redesign the site. No. So if you're in a position to say no, I would say no, and I believe a better project will come around, and you might have to wait for it. You know, that's the downside. Sometimes when you're freelancing, an agency, things are quiet and dry for a little while, but hopefully that helps. Wilson says, mind reading genius. Yeah, if I were a mind reading genius, what would I be doing instead of this? I don't know, probably still this. Russell, if you were a mind reading genius, what job would you have?
Ooh, that's an awfully good question. I get into politics because it's important to read my platform. My platform is whatever you think it should be. Mm. And having read your mind, I know what you think I should be standing on.
Okay, thanks. I need like a spiral. Okay,
Ours 2024.
Okay. Okay. This was a question that came in. Okay, we got that one. That was from Joy Deep. Thank you, Joy, for. Oh, wait. There's something else here. Joy. Oh, no. Joy wanted that one answered at 10 a.m. All right. I'll hold on to that one. All right. We're going to answer Joy's question again next week. By the way, everybody, I'm going to start doing office hours twice a day on Tuesdays to accommodate more time zones. So the 6:30 p.m. Italy one will still stay. And then since I got a request from Australia for a different time when they're actually awake, I'll be doing it at 10 in the morning Italy time. That's going to be like 1 a.m. where you are, Russell. Please don't wake up for it. But I know you were like, shit, I'm going to wake up for it. So mark your calendars for that. And remember, you can always check our events calendar. If you're wondering, when is Deb doing anything? Just go to deltacx.link, which is my URL shortener, and then just put a bunch of things on the end of it and you'll get somewhere. /ask is for these questions. /events is our event calendar. /coaching helps you sign up for some coaching with me. /portfolio-review, free portfolio review, one per customer. And the new reaction videos are at /reaction. Somebody sent in a reaction one earlier, and it was like a page long, and they wanted me to react to Don Norman changing his mind on the definition of design thinking. That sounds like a treatise and not a short reaction video. Russell, over to you.
I'll just mention this for anybody who's on the YouTube today or on the live call. If anyone has communication questions or media questions that might help in what you do with UX or just generally with your job search, I can try and answer your question for you. So find me on email, Voice of Russ, VoiceofRuss at iCloud.com. That's Voice of Russ at iCloud.com. And I'm happy to provide a few minutes advice if I can.
Yes, find him, because he doesn't hang out on social media so much. And Shannon says, fortune teller, fairy godmother, contortionist.
Nice.
Let's see. Okay, so we have one more question. I just got my master's degree in HCI, and I feel that it wasn't worth it. I feel that experience over degrees matters the most. Do you agree? Russell, do you agree that an experience is more important than a degree? And I think you're going to have probably a funny answer and an honest answer.
I would prefer to have a master's degree in CSI, because then I could join one of those TV shows, and they're ever so much fun. I have to tell you, I don't have a piece of paper that says I know how to do broadcasting.
He's being honest, by the way.
I was not particularly successful as a student 30-odd years ago.
I wasn't successful.
But after about 8 months of doing campus radio, I did get a job at a professional radio station. I was in what we call private radio, spinning the hits for the kids, and on a radio station where I had to pull my voice.
I was just going to say, can you pull for everybody, please?
Please. 590 VOCM AM stereo, coming up, music from Donny Osmond and the Bee Gees. But first, a check of the color weather radar. So you had to do that kind of nonsense. And so I was doing that 6 hours a night for about 3 years. Then I switched over to a rock station, which was a little more normal. But I was more or less hired as unskilled labor. So in that instance, they don't have to pay you well, obviously. Over time, what I really wanted was a job at the CBC. And I ended up talking to an executive there. And I said, I want to get into the CBC. How do I go about doing it? I don't have a degree. And she said, well, can you tell stories? And so in making my pitches and learning how to tell those stories and coming up with a niche for myself that no one else was doing, I found my way in through the door. Now, in the pre 9/11 days, I more or less started walking past the security guard at the front door, and because they recognized me, so I just roamed into the office and started doing what I was doing. Over the course of a few months, someone left. They had taken a job somewhere else in another part of the country, so that meant their desk was empty. So I started going in every day and sitting at their desk, looking busy. And sometimes I did have things to do and sometimes I didn't. And one day a producer came in to me and said, we don't have a replacement for the arts reporter. What are you doing for the next 3 weeks? I was like, not too
I'm
much.
the arts reporter.
So I was the arts reporter for 3 weeks, and I never stopped working after that, because you develop a job is as much as developing a relationship with higher ups as it is about, being in the right place at the right time. It's a combination of all those things. So if you can prove you can do the work, it may be a longer slog to get to where you're going, because you have to prove that stuff. You don't have that piece of paper that people immediately check. But ultimately, nobody looks at your degree, really. They'll see it on your resume, but no one's going to ask you to bring it in and recount what your university experience was. But at the end of the day, it's how you tell your stories, how you get the work done, and the relationships that you build with the people who you are seeking work from. So that's my 2 cents worth on that.
Thank you for that. That was a great story, and I think a lot of people will identify with that as they try to join the CX and UX world. So experience over degrees. I think the best answer that I can give to that is right now, with so many boot camps and online courses and Moocs and even university degrees being the wrong things, taught by the wrong people, in the wrong ways, with no mentoring or coaching. Yeah, in that case, if you can get some experience, if you can get an apprenticeship, if you can learn through other ways, I think that is going to be more valuable. I think a good program can give you some good foundational knowledge. And so no matter what, there are courses I suggest that people take when they're getting into UX and CX, mostly cognitive psychology and anything around human behavior. But I don't care if you have a degree or not. And the only jobs in UX that I've seen that care if you have a degree or not are some research jobs. Some research jobs want to see a master's in psychology or HCI or something where you can prove that you've done research and statistical analysis of it. Outside of that, I have a bachelor's in music. Nobody has ever said, we liked you for this job, but where's your master's in HCI? Or we liked you for this job, but where's your certificate from UXQB? So I would say I'm sorry that you feel like your master's wasn't worth it. I dropped 2 UX masters in the first month because I thought they were going to be strong courses, and I didn't like where they were going in the first month or 2, and I dumped both of them, and that cost me time and money, and that's why now I'm doing an MBA, because at least I'm learning new things, and it's not what is UX. I already know what UX is. I should be teaching it, not answering that. So thank you for that question. This technically catches us up to all of our questions. LinkedIn user says, hi, Debbie and Russell. Sorry, LinkedIn is not showing me your name, so I don't know who it is. Shannon wants me to name names of which master's degrees they were. Shannon, let's just say I'll message you in Slack. I really don't want to publicly poop on these institutions because I know of many people who like these institutions. And of course, it's always possible they've improved since I gave them a shot. So I don't want to say publicly, but I will certainly tell you privately. If anyone has any last questions for office hours or for Russell, our special guest, please send those in this freaking second because we're going to have to wrap up in the next few minutes. Though it's your day off, right, Russell?
Yeah, I work a week of Wednesday to Sunday because my weekend show airs Saturday and Sunday mornings, and doing early morning radio at 6 a.m. in Alberta. Like, I'm not used to talking to this many people, so I'm a bit nervous. But for the most part, it's been a lot of fun to be here. Obviously, I'm not a UX professional, but I hope some of what I've had to say has been helpful for the good people that join you each week on this Ask Me Anything.
Why, you're not a UX professional. You lied to me.
I know. I know. This is it. See, it's experience over degrees. I slipped in through the side door.
That one hurt. I felt that one viscerally. All right. So I should probably wind it down. So let me do a quick upcoming show notes, which means I have to look at my own phone calendar and remind everybody what's coming up on the live stream, even though you can check deltacx.link/events. And of course, don't forget you can support the channel through super chats, super stickers, and subscriptions because I have all of the YouTube ads turned off. You're welcome. So tomorrow is going to be the first of our 8 fake observational research studies where we're going to watch people cook and ask them the questions that we worked on yesterday. Tomorrow will be my boyfriend making pasta. No, you can't have some. The Thursday the 18th, friend of the show, Charlene will be here. Hold on, someone's asking your email, so I'm just going to type it and put it up on my my graphics here. So voice of Russ you're using iCloud, right?
Correct.
Okay, just checking because I've had 47 emails for you in 12 years. That's Russell's email. Yes, Thursday the 18th, friend of the show, Charlene, will be our cook. Friday the 19th, friend of our show, Julia, will be cooking. Saturday the 20th, Kayleen will be cooking. Sunday the 21st, Maggie will be cooking. Monday the 27th, Joel Barr will be cooking. Tuesday the 23rd, week from today, will be Office Hours Ask Me Anything with a special guest, beloved UX author Steve Portugal. So please join for that and ask Steve any questions you have, especially about research. Wednesday the 24th, our guest will be Sotiris. Some of you have seen him around. He is a great UX researcher in England, and he's going to talk about setting up a user pool. Friday the 26th, special new live cooking with Naz. Sunday the 28th, live cooking with Randy. And then Monday the 29th, we're going to jump into our analysis of all of these fake live cooking things. So know ye that. We have a question for you. I'm going to put it up on the screen. This is from Flavio. And Flavio says, Mcdavid or Gretzky? Ooh.
Well, first of all, different generations, but Mcdavid today by a long shot. Gretzky, you just had to see him. You just had to be there. He was incredible in his era. I think he'd be kind of middling right now, but he is one of the most creative players that the game ever saw. But if I had to start a team today, I'd take Gretzky.
There you go, Flavio.
So for all you UX hockey fans, I'm glad you enjoyed that experience.
And you and I've been to how many hockey games together? 2?
2, yes. We were at one in San Jose. We saw the Vancouver Canucks, and then we saw the San Jose Sharks again in Las Vegas when they took on the Golden Knights.
That's right, with Pierre
So
Mario.
we share the San Jose Sharks. They're a part of our friendship DNA.
That is strange. Yes, well, to be continued. And Shannon's like, I would have cooked, but I wasn't sure I'd have time with 2 young kids. Shannon, we're not blaming you. You don't have to cook on the show. We'll find something to rope you into later.
If you ever need a cooking golden food section, I mean, I'm happy to come around for that.
You and food. I'm just going to say that.
The Red Wings are kind of hard up right now, Flavio, but good times are ahead. They got the right guy in charge.
All right. We've got one more question from Dandrew, and then we're going to have to say goodbye to everybody. How would you promote a podcast on LinkedIn #beta business? Okay, I'm not too sure why you've got a hashtag. I'm confused, but promoting
Maybe
anything
that's the name
on
of the
LinkedIn,
podcast?
I don't know. Promoting anything on LinkedIn is difficult because, first of all, you have to have a lot of connections and followers. Then you have to write a post on LinkedIn that LinkedIn algorithm deems worthy in the first hour of your post. If your post does not get a lot of action on LinkedIn in the first hour, LinkedIn sends it to Davy Jones' locker and nobody else sees your post. I've had posts die in the algorithm. Some of you watched it. So, Promoting a podcast on LinkedIn is hard, but what's harder is making a good podcast. Russell, you're a broadcaster. Well, how do you feel about, what are your suggestions for promoting a podcast, which is essentially becoming your own private broadcaster?
Pretty much, yes. So a couple things. One, whether you're promoting it on LinkedIn or Twitter, Facebook, wherever you happen to put a link, or I would try and find a small clip, say 3 or 4 minutes tops. Even less is better if it's a nice, concise 2 or 3 minute bit. Put that as a link on your site, or embedded audio, so that people can listen to it there and kind of go, oh, I want to find out more, and then click to the link where they can get your podcast. So a bit of a teaser, shall we say. A couple of things to keep in mind when you're putting together a podcast is that podcasting is done by individuals. It's not done by groups of people. There is no hello out there in podcast world. It is, hi, how are you? You're not talking to multiples under those circumstances. So you make the conversation between you, and if you've got a guest, you always keep in mind that you're talking and being listened to by one person. That's a big key to all of this. Podcasts are best when you can find terrestrial references, as we say. So you look at most podcasts that have become popular, it's because they've been able to get people in from the world of the news and the world of music and TV and movies. There's very few podcasts that are popular because they have gleaned their guests or topic from just the podcast world. One thing to keep in mind is that you just keep it simple and try to have it sound as good as possible as you can make it. But that's the key, is to find good equipment and then keep the conversation direct with the one person who's listening to you under those circumstances. But yeah, if you're on LinkedIn or any of the other platforms, try and find ways to just put little teasers out there, snappy headlines, just to kind of get people's interest, because if they like the 2 minutes they hear with you, they're more than likely to want to go over. The other thing to keep in mind is to try and communicate why you do what you do. If people hear their values expressed in what you do and the type of guests that you go after, they hear themselves in your content, then they're going to be more likely to download your content.
Yeah, I think you're talking about making what will feel like a personal connection. And I'm always hoping that all the low ego action heroes that are joining for my shows feel and Steve Austin, we can rebuild him.
He's an action hero.
Yes, he's an action figure. If you're all low ego, posable action figures, that I'm hoping that people feel some sort of personal connection to me. Not too personal, don't want to get into stalker territory, but that they feel connected to me and that we have something in common, and I invite them to the Slack channel. But yeah, I think the short version of what Russell said is you have to make sure that you've got a topic or guests or a format that people are interested in, because now everybody's a podcaster, everybody's a YouTuber, everybody thinks they're Russell. And the question is, what are any of us offering the audiences that they're not getting somewhere else, or they can't get it all, or something like that? Lots of media.
Precisely, yeah.
In case you didn't notice. All right, Russell, any last words? Should I give you another round of applause for Russell? I can't make that sound better. I got the 8 people clapping version.
Well, I hope those who have been on the call today and watch it on YouTube enjoy my little humorous interjections. But for the most part, I hope that people found something good in the serious things that I said. And it's been so much fun doing this, Debbie. I'm so happy that you asked me to be on the show. And I know when you were showing me this channel a little while ago, I was because I'm in broadcasting, I immediately go for the things that, we could do this or we could do that. But
yeah, you didn't like how I was framing people. Like even you right now, you're probably mad at how you're framed.
No, it's okay. It's probably my own camera. But I would say that in the different sessions that I've watched myself, one thing I can say is that you explain yourself clearly. People are engaged because the questions are about them. How can I improve my life? And here's someone who is willing to explain some of these things to me. So for anyone who's had an experience with this channel where they feel that they've gotten something out of it, I mean, obviously there are ways to support Debbie and what she's doing, and whatever support you give her, you're also giving back to her because it allows her to keep doing this. So my thanks to Debbie, and my thanks to everyone who took a few minutes to share some time with us today.
Thanks, Russell. I'm so glad you joined. And if people had fun today, let me know here or in the Slack chat, and we can always invite Russell back for a version 2, maybe during the summer. So I'm going to play us out of here and get ready for my call in 20 minutes. And I will see everybody tomorrow for our observational research of watching my boyfriend cook. So thanks, Russell. I'm going to play us out of here, and everybody be safe. See you tomorrow. Delta CX, available for CX and UX consulting, projects, and training. Contact us for a free consultation.